Hi everyone, it's Danny. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a tutorial for my layout using the Confessions of a Paper Addict cut files garden life cut file that I made and backed with Vellum. So I am going to show you how I did that in my Silhouette Studio design software. I've had quite a few questions, so I'm just going to show you how I did that technique. So I will also link some videos in the description box showing you how to do this in the Cricut design space. Miranda Weber has done some amazing tutorials on that, so I'll pop those in the description box if you're interested. So I've opened up the cut file, I've imported the PNG image, I always use PNG, and now I'm going into the Trace tab, which is on the right hand side there, and I have clicked Select Trace Area. Then I have just clicked and dragged to highlight that entire cut file, and then I will go over and click Trace. And then I am just going to go ahead and delete that PNG now that I have the cut lines all traced out. So I've just left clicked here, opens up the menu and then selected delete, but you can also just click it and press the delete key on your keyboard, which is what I would typically do, but just for ease of comprehension, I've used the drop down menu there. So now I've just clicked the bottom corner and dragged it to the size I want roughly. Clicking the corners will keep it at the correct ratio rather than clicking the side little boxes. Okay, and then I've hit the center to page icon at the top there, which is a handy little tool. And then I'm going to go send because I want to cut out the white part of the cut file first. So I'm going to send and I'm just going to choose the settings that I want to use for my cardstock. I'm just using plain white cardstock, so you just choose whichever settings that you would normally use for that and then send that to your Silhouette. Right, once that's done, go back to design, just click the little tab and that will take you back to your cut file. Now you want to work with that same cut file because it's going to be exactly the size and you want to back that cut file that you already have. So you want to right click on your cut file, choose release compound path, and then you will get all little bits and pieces all separated from each other. So I am going to go ahead and delete all the internal pieces. So I've just zoomed in a little bit to make this job a little bit easier on me. So I'm going to go through and delete all these little pieces that are inside the cut file. So I want to keep all the outside edges of the flowers intact. So I'm just clicking on the pieces I want to delete and hitting the delete key on the keyboard. It's much quicker than right clicking and choosing delete. But if you want to do it that way, that's totally okay. This is just a lot quicker. So I'm just going through and deleting all those inside pieces. I'm not doing the little lady beetles because I'm actually going to remove those completely from the cut file closer to the end. So you'll see that in a minute. So you want to make sure that these little pieces here that are the gaps between the flowers, you don't delete those. Make sure you keep those, even these little pieces here, because they are going to be really obvious when you go to back the cut file that they were supposed to be cut out because those are the gaps between the flowers. You only want to delete the little pieces that are inside of the flowers here. So it might be a bit tricky. And just remember, if you mess up and delete something you didn't mean to, you can always click Control-Z on your keyboard, which is undo shortcut, or you can go up to the very top dark gray bar and click the little undo arrow and it will undo it for you. So I've just sped this up really quick. I'm just going through, and it does take a bit of time, but it really does save you time in backing the cut file later, and it is so much easier to stick down one giant piece of vellum than all those little individual pieces. So now that I have all those deleted, I'm going to click the Fit to Page icon here, which just zooms it back out to a full page view. And I am going to select the entire cut file, right click, and make compound path. So I'm going to make the whole thing a single piece again. There we go. And then I will zoom back in quite a bit because I'm going to come in with the knife tool now. So off to the left hand side here is the knife tool. Select that and make sure you have the solid outline selected. Otherwise you'll end up with a bunch of just random pieces. So this isn't necessary obviously, but I just want to remove the beetles off the cut file, and this is what I did on my layout, so I wanted to include how I did this. So I'm just going through with the knife tool and carefully slicing off the little lady beetle, and I have a few jagged edges here. I'm not being particularly careful about how I cut it, and you'll see once I've cut this little beetle off there are some sharp sections, but I'm not particularly worried about that. I can always go in and fix that once I've cut it out, and I could have fixed it up in the program by choosing the point edit tool and manipulating it a bit further, but honestly I just really couldn't be bothered, and you can't even tell at the end anyway. So if you are going to do this for backing a cut file, I wouldn't be too picky about it. If I was editing the original cut file that you're going to see that's going to be on the top, then I'd be more careful, but I really don't care too much here. So I think I have cut that beetle completely off, but you'll see in a second when I click on this section of the beetle, it highlights that top flower as well. So that means it's still attached to that top flower somewhere. And here it is. So I realized that I've missed a spot here. So just be aware of that before you delete anything. Make sure it's not still attached to the cut file somewhere, because it's really easy to miss a spot like that. So I'm just going to click on that beetle, and again, just deleting that section. There we go. And it's left its little spot here because that was separate. So I'm just going to also delete that. And this little bit that I've cut off as well. So you can see there, that's quite pointy and quite jagged. So I could fix that up, but it's really, yeah, I'm not too concerned about it at this point. And once it's, you know, it's just going to be used to back the cut file, and it's vellum. It's not a pattern paper where you're going to really see an obvious gap. So I'm not too concerned. So I'm just going through now and slicing off and deleting all those little ladybugs, and that is done. So we're nearly finished, almost on the home stretch now. So again, I've just zoomed to fit to page, and now I want to make the whole thing a tiny bit smaller because I want it to sit inside the cut file a little bit, not be exactly the same size as the cut file. So I have chosen the offset tool, which is off to the right hand side there. And I've chosen internal offset, and then I am highlighting the amount or the distance there, and then I am just typing in, I do a 0.03, I believe. So there you can see it's just slightly smaller than the original cut file, and I didn't want to go too much smaller because the original cut file is quite thin, and once you make an internal offset, you can see those leaf branches are quite thin and delicate. So now that whole thing will separate off just like that. So I have two separate pieces, one slightly smaller than the other. And I can tell which is which because especially the stems on those leaves are definitely thinner on the smaller offset piece. So I'm going to delete the original, and now I have chosen my offset piece, and you can see that it has released that flower again. It's loose, which doesn't matter when it cuts because it's not attached to anything, so it doesn't really matter where it is on the cut mat, but I just want to again select everything and make a compound path just so I can move it all as one piece, and I'm not going to forget any bits and pieces. And then I've just sent it to page again. So there, that is all ready to cut onto my vellum or onto your single pattern paper, whatever you want to do. So I've gone to send, and then I'm going to choose my settings for vellum, which the preset vellum setting works quite nicely, I think. And then send to my silhouette, and that is how I make the one piece backing for this layout. So I am going to end up with the white cut file that is all fully cut out, and then I have the nice large piece of vellum to back my cut file with. So you can see I have a couple of pieces there because my vellum is actually A4 size. So I again just took that knife tool and sliced it to the correct size so that I could cut it out onto A4 pieces instead of one 12 by 12. And then I can just go through and back the whole cut file with the vellum. You will notice I backed the cut file with some pattern paper behind the beetles and in the center of all the flowers, and that is so I can add adhesive somewhere that is not going to be seen. You could just add it to the back of the cut file, but I find that it does tend to leak out and it does tend to be visible on the vellum. So I would try to put some pattern paper somewhere just so you can hide that adhesive, but you only need to add adhesive in a couple of places because you have one nice big piece of vellum there. So that's my tutorial. I hope that was clear and helped some of you maybe learn a new technique. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.